a copy. All right, guys. So welcome to part 2 of effective marketing and business development strategies for small and mid-sized law firms. So you don't have to be at a smaller mid-sized law firm to get some value from today. In fact, I think anybody can really learn, especially if you're on a budget, and who isn't on a budget, right? Or who doesn't want to do more with less. So we have a lot of really good tips for you today. We'll, even if you weren't on our first webinar, and we will put the link to that. It's also on my YouTube channel. So if you're not following me on YouTube, you should. If you're not connected to Chris and I on LinkedIn, you should be. Chris, if you could put your LinkedIn URL in the chat, that would be great. I will put mine in the chat as well.
Well, and actually they can connect with us using a QR code at the very end of the day.
That is true. That is a tip, actually. That is one of my favorite tips that all of you should use yourselves when you're presenting, or if you want to put it on your business cards, if you want to put that on your pitch materials. I think it's a great way to have a link right to LinkedIn. I also would encourage everybody, just like a quick little tip for personal branding, put a link to your LinkedIn URL on your email signature. It's another great way to facilitate networking. And also your company LinkedIn page should be on your email signature as well, if you're looking to boost your LinkedIn company page followers. I am going to be doing a LinkedIn company page course in August, which I'll also put a link to that because there have been so many changes on LinkedIn company pages. So Chris, tell us about you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Fritsch. I am actually a CRM and marketing technology success consultant. And CRM success is not an oxymoron. I swear we've worked together with a couple hundred firms over the last 15 years to help them be more successful in selecting and implementing this technology. And a big part of that is cleaning the data. So we have a team of almost 100 folks, and a lot of them just work on doing outsourcing of e-marketing, data quality, of CRM management, and other marketing technology roles. So that's me. What about you, Stefanie?
That's awesome. And Chris is a lawyer, actually, as well.
Recovering.
I didn't know Chris was on the law review. So that's pretty cool. That's something I learned about you. So I'm Stefanie Marrone, and I was in-house as a legal marketer at all of the firms on the bottom. So I started out at Paul Weiss. I went to a firm that is no longer in existence, but an amazing firm called McKee Nelson, which then merged with Bingham McCutcheon, which is no longer in existence, and then became part of another firm, Morgan Lewis. I went to Sullivan and Cromwell, and I met my mentor at Paul Weiss, Wendy Bernero, who many of you may know. She took me with her to 4 different law firms. I was very lucky. And I then went to Mayer Brown, Mofo, Proskauer, and then I was CMO of Tarter, Krinsky, and Drogen, where I first got started working at mid-sized firms, and I loved it. And I saw there was so much value there. And about almost 3 years ago, I started my own business. And I now work solely for small and mid-sized law firms as outsourced chief marketing officer. And also a lot of people know me as a social media strategist. And so I do that also, trainings and managing a lot of social media accounts for law firms. And that's awesome. It's been really fun. And I used to be a magazine editor and used to write the horoscopes at Redbook magazine, and I made them up. And that's a little known fact about me. And I live in Manhattan with my 2 French bulldog puppies, who many of you know. All right, Chris, what are we going to cover today?
Oh, goodness. What aren't we going to cover? We're going to cover the best thing that we're going to cover is sharing best practices and tips for doing more with less, for getting ahead as a smaller and mid-sized firm. But we're going to start with some of the trends that we're seeing and working together with, collectively with hundreds of clients. I think it's always helpful to give people a leg up on what we think is coming down the pike based on what we're seeing. What do you think? What do you think, Stefanie?
Yeah, and things are changing rapidly. I mean, we're hearing the word recession, and we want you to be poised. I would tell you, just like I told all of my clients when COVID happened, when things are starting to we're thinking about maybe there'll be a downturn because it's been so hot lately for the last year or two. it's not a time to pull back on marketing. In fact, I would tell you the opposite. And maybe I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I want you all to think about being prepared for the next couple of years. And this may not hit us for a while, but I think it's really important for small and mid-sized law firms to be doing marketing and strategic marketing. I also think it's very important to set up an alumni relations program, which I know that many small and mid-sized firms don't have. And so this is really where what Chris does and what I do crosses each other in a great way, because without good data and a CRM system and email marketing, you can't have an alumni program. So I could give you all the tricks on content marketing and the best ways to reach your alumni, but without good data, it's for nothing. So I'm setting up 3 alumni relations programs for firms of under 70 lawyers. So if you have former employees, you have the need for an alumni program. So I want to.
You should do a separate webinar about alumni programs. Let's put that.
Absolutely. So we're going to cover that a little bit. I'm also going to talk about, I want to talk about the importance of content marketing and the importance of client alerts and why you need to be doing that and why that is, I think, one of the most important ways to stay top of mind with your clients. But again, without technology, you can't do any of these things. So those of you who, and I'd love to know, put it in the comments, do you have a CRM system? Are you using an email marketing platform? What are you using for CRM? And what are you using for email marketing? Let us know. And I'd also love to know what you're using for marketing in general. Are you doing it yourselves? Are you outsourcing? So let us know. And if there's anything specific you want us to cover today,
let us know.
Also do that. Yeah,
let us know.
All right. So I'll just stress this. So I firmly believe that mid-sized and small firms have a very unique place in the market, but there are challenges. And we do marketing because we want to be top of mind, most of all, to prospects and laterals. It's simply not enough to be really good at what you do. I know all of your lawyers. So we have lawyers on here today. We have legal service providers. We have legal marketers. It's not enough to be a great lawyer. It's just not. And there are a lot of really great lawyers. You have to remind people of what you do and why you're good at what you do. And marketing helps you do that. Business development and marketing helps you do these things. And also, people Google you every day. This is why content helps. It's why social media helps. I'm going to talk about whether you use LinkedIn every day or once a year, your LinkedIn profile is still your number 1 or number 2 Google search result. So that's why you need to care about these things. And reporters don't necessarily only want to talk to the Sullivan and Cromwell lawyers. You can get really good press. You also don't need to spend a fortune on this either. So marketing is more important, I think, when you are a small and mid-sized firm. And I will tell you, it's an investment, and it's an investment well spent. And if you don't know what you're doing with regard to marketing technology, you need to hire people who know how to do it. And whether you're going to bring somebody on your firm full time, or whether you're going to outsource, and we're going to talk about the trend of outsourcing, it's well worth your while. Now, there's a reason why I'm not a lawyer, and there's a reason why I do marketing. Like, stay in your lane also. Like, you don't have to do it all. You don't know what you don't know. So I would just tell you, like, there's no reason why you need to go through your lists and do email marketing and do all the things that you don't have time to do. You should be client facing as a lawyer, and you should be doing really good work and let others deal with that stuff. And Chris is going to talk about outsourcing, but there is competition because big firms have more resources, money, press mentions, deals, and lawyers. So we have to get creative, and we're going to give you some tools to get creative. Chris, anything you want to add on that before I go to?
Yeah. So there were some things in the chat that were really interesting, and, people are like, we really want to know what to do next. I think we're going to give you some takeaways. If you just get these webinars are always like drinking from the fire hose, but if you just get 1 to 3 takeaways and go back and actually execute on them, then it's worthwhile. So we'll give you some ideas of what you can be doing next to compete better. For folks who are putting in what CRM you have and e-marketing, are you looking for a new system? Are you happy with your system? Feel free to share any kind of insights, and we'll give you some ideas. So
yeah, and I'm going to tell you that there are a lot of systems that you maybe don't need, that are too big for you, and so you may not need all of them. And so I hear some of you, I'm looking also in the comments, so we're going to talk about that. There's one in here that the email marketing system somebody put in here, Pardis, I hope I'm saying your name right, but reach out to me about the system you messaged, because I have a lot of experience with that one, specifically not a good one. So I can talk to you about what I did with that system. So I do want to go here to, this is just, I love playing around with Canva. Chris, I don't think the first and last time you've ever had pigtails, but this is just to underscore that before, I was in legal marketing. Chris, you too. I mean, I think we're around the same age or so. So when I first started in legal marketing at Paul Weiss, we were mailing hard copy invitations, and it was a different world. We didn't have social media, okay? We didn't have CRM systems. The world has changed. We have technology. It is not Little House on the Prairie anymore. You should not be keeping your contacts in an Excel spreadsheet. That's the equivalent of the Ingalls family, okay? And you should absolutely, if you are doing things from scratch, it's okay. Start today. And if you feel like your systems are antiquated, like the Ingalls family, that's okay. But the best time to start this was yesterday. The second best time is today. So we're going to give you some tools.
And you should not be allowed to get to touch Canva. That's just terrible.
Well, if anybody saw my LinkedIn post today, did anyone see what I did with Sliding Doors, the movie poster? Yeah. I had a really fun time today. So, all right, Chris, tell us about the challenges that we're facing.
Yeah, I'm happy to tell you, but I'm sure a lot of these personally. The big thing in a law firm, time is money, literally, for the lawyers, and they have, less and less time, and we have less and less time. We're all trying to do more with less, limited budgets, limited staff. And, we're going to talk more about this. Our business consultant came in to advise our company on, what they're seeing in the marketplace outside of legal. And, he said, we don't know that we're going to have a recession, and we hope that we don't. And we'll talk a little bit about it. But he said every major organization is putting together a plan, because if something does happen, we want to make sure we have a plan, and we'll give you some ideas about that. But if that does happen, we're going to have more limited budgets and more limited staff, and it's always going to be a squeeze. So we've got it great right now. It's been great. Let's hope it keeps up, and let's plan just in case it doesn't. But the other thing to think about is, Stefanie mentioned outsourcing. Outsourcing can be really important for small and mid-sized firms, because, if you're a giant firm, you probably have a CRM manager, 2 or 3 people on the e-marketing team, a graphic designer. Small and mid-sized firms don't have that. But with outsourcing, you can get fractional. You can get a fractional CMO like Stefanie. You can get a fractional CRM manager. You can get a fractional data steward to clean your data, which is nice.
Okay. All right, let me move over. We got some really good questions. So
excellent.
It'll be fun. Okay.
What we're seeing in terms of trends, and we shared some of this so I won't sort of harp on it, but we are seeing more firms than ever before switching CRM systems, or getting their first CRM system or e-marketing system. And it's because everything has gone hybrid, right? We're not back to 100% in person. The conferences that I've been to have been at about 50% attendance, which, there's still some pretty big conferences, but for a while, we're still going to be hybrid. Webinars are still going to be a thing. And people are getting to the cloud now, and they're wanting more sophisticated business development tools, dashboards, pipelines, and e-marketing and digital. It's become digital first. And I think it's going to stay that way for a while. It may never change. So it's more important than ever to have the right technology. And like Stefanie said earlier, if you've got bad data, it doesn't matter what technology you have because you're not reaching people. So it's really important to make sure that, that you're doing list maintenance and data quality.
And there was a good point, Chris, that somebody made that like you oftentimes don't even know like that you're not even reaching people with some of these systems. Like somebody brought up constant contact and how some of the emails are not even getting to people. So, that's also an issue. So invest in this is a place where you want to actually invest, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And for a bunch of people in the questions in the chat are saying they're just looking for a system. Hey, that's what we do for a living. So anytime I'll take a phone call, share with you, what other firms are using, not by name, obviously, but what products are out there, what they do well, give you some ideas depending on what your budget. Always happy to take calls and do that.
Yeah, and also Chris is going to be offering at the end like a checklist on how to find the right CRM and that sort of thing. So so take advantage of that free checklist. So also, so email marketing is so important. I mentioned that earlier, and you want to use email marketing, by the way, with the exception of like if you have like you're opening an office or you have a lateral coming on board. Those are the only times where I would make it about you. I would never send a blast about, oh, we won this award or we have this many chambers rankings. Those are boastful emails that are a waste of a touch point. These should always be client centric. So these are blog posts, these are client alerts, these are very client facing, client centric posts. But again, like I said, you can't do anything if you don't have good lists. The other thing I want to mention is segmentation. You can have, let's say, 2,000 contacts, but please don't blast everybody with that email. If, like, let's say it's a litigation related alert and you've got M&A people on the list, maybe they'll find it applicable. But if you keep sending them content that's not tailored to them, they're going to get annoyed with you. So segmentation needs to be part of your strategy. And I would even go further and have lists for C-suite folks, have a women's list, figure out those core areas. Maybe you want to break it by also, jurisdiction and geography. It's very well worth your time and effort to do segmentation because people will unsubscribe and you'll never be able to get them back. And that's your ultimate goal.
Yeah, and like one of the things people are using our team of data stewards for now is to add industries. Forever, a lot of the firms want to target industries and have never been able to do it because it seems like such a daunting task. You either had to, you have thousands of records to tag, or you had to buy subscriptions that cost $50,000, $100,000. And so just nobody's executed on it. So we've got some ideas behind, how to really segment smaller groups and do a little bit at a time to really get you there with the industry coding and tagging. And I think that's going to be more important as things go on too.
That's great. And more isn't necessarily better, right? I mean, you don't have to have 5,000 contacts. I'd rather you have 1,000 really good targeted strategic contacts. I have a client, Chris, it's an IP firm, and they have on their list 220 contacts, but their open rate is 65%.
Yep.
And that is, so those are the metrics. Also, make sure you're looking at your metrics. That is such a misstep, I find. Like sending out e-blasts is great, but what are you doing after? And are you feeding that information back to the authors and creating really good content afterward and creating less of what doesn't resonate? Are you looking at all of the places where you're like, are you tracking the content? Are you looking on social media? Are you looking on your website? Are you looking at the email marketing campaigns? Are you looking to see what people are reading? And are you telling the authors so they feel, one, empowered by what they wrote? Number two, so you can refine the content. Are you A/B testing your subject lines? Are you putting together workshops on best practices for writing really good alerts? I have something like this, if anybody wants it, I'm happy to share it with you. It's like a guide to writing good client alerts, because by the way, so many client alerts are dreadful. How many of you like cringe when you see like, here I had a video the other day about one of my clients was putting out one about it was like Game of Thrones titles, and I was like, oh God, like it's just too much. Like if you do that, you can really turn off people. So there's so much more than just getting somebody to write the content. And then we have the whole content paralysis situation, Chris, where people are, lawyers tend to be perfectionists. Well, you can,
I've never noticed that.
Right. Never. Right. You can kind of screw yourself over, because what you do is then edit, and then you miss the boat, right? Good is good enough. I tell people this all the time. Get your alert out the door. It's not winning a Pulitzer Prize. Okay. And we're going to talk about the website is crucial. One of my clients has waited 9 years for a website. One of the prospects who was thinking about working with them went on the website to look them up after they got their name from a referral source. You know what they thought, Chris? They thought the firm was going out of business because the site was so bad. The copyright on the bottom of the site, Chris, was 2018. They never updated it. This is prior to me working with them. That shows, first of all, that's really bad on a lot of levels, and they're lawyers, so they should know better, and they're IP lawyers. Second of all, it's showing that you don't have any aptitude for technology. They also had a picture of a BlackBerry on their technology page, which again is saying we don't know anything about what we're doing. If you're not taking advantage of technology on your website, you're showing that you're very much behind the times and you're not investing in your brand. Your website is still incredibly important. It's the first place people go. So I want to make sure you're all in. Websites don't have to be expensive, by the way, to be good. They do need to be updated and on a continuous basis, though. Okay, Chris, take us through this.
Yeah, I mean, we're of course seeing staffing challenges. There's just a lot going on with the great kind of reshuffling and realignment, resignation. But we're also seeing a lot more attorneys that just don't have time for technology. And so what we are, recommending to them is a lot of new technology that makes it, for the attorneys, they want maximum value from the system and minimal time spent doing things like data entry. Because again, time is money. People who are billing $500, $1,000 an hour should not be doing data entry. So there are a lot of new tools to help get the data in without them having to do it, or even their assistants having to do it.
Yep. All right. And listen, recruiting is really hard for everybody, especially mid-sized firms. So what the trend I'm seeing, tell me if you guys are seeing this, I'm seeing mid-sized firms, some of the lawyers go start their own firms. I'm seeing mid-sized firms, some of the lawyers staff talent get poached by bigger firms. So everyone's a competitor right now. And I'm going to tell you also, if your lawyers aren't using webinars to market themselves, they're behind the times. Webinars are here to stay, and they should be. And a webinar can be turned into 10 pieces of content. A webinar, you get the transcript from Otter, can be turned into a blog post. It can be turned into a long form article, which you should be using JD Supra as your content syndicator. It can be turned into a video. The audio can be stripped out and made into a podcast. It can be turned into 10 social media posts because a quote can be used. Like this webinar, you guys are going to see this webinar on Chris and my social for months to come. Okay. So webinar, and by the way, you can splice up a webinar into a 3-minute segment, because not many people want to watch the full 45 minutes. So you need to think strategically about every asset and everything you're doing and maximizing it. Okay. And if you don't have a YouTube channel, your video should live on YouTube as well. So I hope that gives you at least 5-6 ideas right there about what to do with your webinars. You don't have to spend any money creating a webinar. You also don't even need to offer CLE credit. But by the way, small and mid-sized firms, I can give you a secret. You don't have to be CLE accredited. You can apply for CLE credit after the fact. You can also submit the slides to your local state service, accredited provider and get credit for it. And the way you get to be an accredited provider also is creating a series in advance. So you put up a page on your website. Let's say you have 4 programs for the year, and then you would apply in advance, okay? And then you run the same program over and over again. If anyone's interested in starting a CLE program at your firm, I ran a CLE program at my last full-time firm job, and it really helped us, okay? But you can apply a la carte kind of thing, okay? So don't let that be a deterrent, but also your clients aren't all lawyers. So you don't necessarily need CLE credit, but offer webinars.
By the way, shout out to Rob Cates at Cates Media. He is an amazing resource for video. So if you've got a webinar recording, we send stuff to him all the time, and he so gets it. He's, completely plugged into legal and understands it, but he can add really professional headers and footers, and he does a terrific job. So
yeah.
Shout out to Rob.
And let me tell you guys, don't get discouraged if you only have 10 people on the webinar, because I really believe that you still will wind up getting an audience afterward. So it is well worth doing the webinar, because you'll get extra mileage, because people don't necessarily attend the live, okay? And remember the days, guys, when we used to have breakfast seminars or lunch seminars in the office? We're not doing those anymore, okay? The webinars are the way to reach people. People will watch them after. You're essentially doing it just to film it. And if people attend live, great, but tell the lawyers they're doing it to have the recording. Social media in a minute, and we're going to talk about outsourcing as well. All right, Chris. Trouble's coming.
Yeah, let's hope it's not.
I don't know, Chris. The rents in Manhattan are insane right now, which is crazy.
Yeah, and 2 years ago we said, New York, everyone is leaving New York. Well, now they're all coming back, and their rents are, so
I wish they would leave again.
Yeah, and again, our business consultant just told us, he is seeing the biggest tech companies. So forever, there was growth with a lack of profitability, and because of some of the things being done by the Fed and the interest rates and all that, these companies that were growing and making no money are now realizing they're going to have to make some money. And so they're having mass layoffs. He said, be prepared. You're going to see, hopefully it'll be good for everybody to have access to more candidates, because we're all having trouble finding people, but he's already seeing that outside of legal. So, the idea is not to be gloom and doom, but let's keep an eye on what's going on around us. Hope the recession doesn't happen, but maybe prepare in case it does. So
yeah.
The next slide.
Yeah.
So, what does this mean? If you're a smaller and mid-sized firm, you've got to focus. You don't have, quite as many people, quite as many dollars necessarily as some of the other firms. So, what are the things that you can leverage where, size doesn't matter, right? So social media and investing in the right technology, you can play with the biggest of dogs, and, you can focus on the things that maybe they're not focusing on, and getting more targeted, getting more segmented, doing more industry focused things. Having the right technology can give you more hours in the day. So
yeah.
The next slide. So the moral of the story is, I love this slide, Stephanie. This is great. Get your ducks in a row. Make them quack.
Yes.
We're going to give you some ideas for that next.
We will. Also, by the way, I hate to tell you this, but I didn't put a slide in here, but it's time to also think about your holiday card. And Chris and I are going to do an article on this, but if you guys, I don't know if any of you are thinking about this yet, but I will do like a Christmas in July feature, but your lists need to be, you need to start thinking about your lists so that you can start doing your holiday greeting. And so stay tuned for a special series that Chris and I will do on that. But you got to get a lot of ducks in the row. We are halfway through the year. Halfway through the year means that, listen, you still have time. Also, it's the summer. People usually kind of take a break during the summer. There's a lot of people going on vacation. I want you guys to go on vacation. However, vacation time gives us opportunity, I think, to to take stock of the stuff we've done so far and the things we want to accomplish, to sort of really work hard when the fall comes. And people are still working during the summer. So why not, do some of these things, do the webinars in August.
Stephanie,
I did a webinar.
I got to say, we were talking about, hey, when are we going to do the next webinar? And I said, well, it's getting to be summer. People are going on vacations. Attendance will be down. Why don't we do September? She's like, Chris, no, people don't, some people go on vacation, but not everybody goes at the same time. This webinar. We have 200 people signed up for this webinar. It is the highest attended webinar we've done yet. And we're in the middle of the summer. So
yeah, I did a webinar at the end of August and I had great attendance. And listen, I think there are people still traveling, but I think you'd be surprised. I think sometimes, you just got to go and do it. So I think, Chris, you already brought this up, but we're just going to underscore that it's important. So
she brought it up earlier too, but you're only doing the webinar, you're doing it live for one group. And then, you're posting it and you can always refer back to it. It's like, I love e-newsletters, but I also like blog posts because the blog posts are perpetual and you can always link to them and send them to people when topics come up that are of interest. The e-newsletter, it goes out usually that one time and a few people might forward it, but not always. It usually sort of has a limited lifespan. But if you have a blog that feeds your e-newsletter, then you get the best of both worlds. And so that's what we do.
Yeah. Also, let me just bring up LinkedIn newsletters. For those of you who are on my webinar about LinkedIn newsletters and creator mode, and if you want a copy of that webinar, it's on my YouTube channel. I can send it to you, but I'm going to make you guys use LinkedIn if you want a copy of this stuff. So you have to message me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn newsletters are a great resource. And it's a great other vehicle to reach people because not a lot of people are using them. And it's really easy to set it up. You can also embed a YouTube link in the body of the newsletter to give more life to a webinar. I wouldn't put a 45-minute webinar in there, but I do put snippets. If those of you who get my newsletter have seen it, you can't really do that in a HubSpot newsletter, a Constant Contact newsletter or MailChimp. You can't embed video well, but you can in LinkedIn. LinkedIn is becoming a content hub. So I would just suggest that you think about this. So I think
we've talked through some of this. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, let's go over. All right, so let's talk about some of the how. So let me go through some of the things. I mentioned this already, guys. Don't let your website become a crisis. Your website shouldn't even be done every few years. You should be continually working with your website developer to make sure your website is SEO friendly, that you are responsive, that the site is got to the latest technology, and that it's user friendly, that it is working for your clients. This is the first place prospects go to find out about you and your firm. Do not let this sit by the wayside. I also will tell you that SEO is so important. No, you do not need to hire an SEO consultant. You just need to write very good content. And every single page needs to have 300 words on it or it won't rank in Google. And you need to make sure that you are filling out the words strategically. You need to fill out those areas in the back end of your CMS tool that are the keywords, right? I mean, I do think that WordPress is probably the best tool because it's the most universal, okay? And if you have SEMrush built in, that's even better for your site.
Do you want to tell them what that is? Just so
it's like a tool that builds in like SEO functionality. Make sure your images, when you post an image to your website, that you are naming it. Okay, like you're naming it. It shouldn't just be like DSPQRW7.
Yeah, the alt tags.
Alt text. Okay, and you can do alt text now on LinkedIn images as well. You should absolutely do that. It does help with searchability and visibility. Another thing you should do, guys, is linking on your site. So if I'm on a page, if I'm on a bio or I'm on a client alert, you should link to other client alerts on your site. Okay. This is backlinking. And this is really important because it helps you move you up in Google. Okay. So it's just another way to let Google know. I mean, it's better to have links that are outbound links, but these are links within your site, but it does help. So if you are on a practice area page, you could put links to other practices. If you're on a client alert, you could link to other client alerts. Okay. So if anyone's interested in doing a separate webinar on SEO best practices, let me know. This is more like content writing for the web and for social, and I'm not going to get too much into it. One other thing I noticed with small and mid-sized firms, please don't sell yourself short. Give yourself one page per practice. Don't put all your practices in one page and then do like a jump link to all of them. That hurts your SEO. Okay. Bio. The most important page on your website is the bio. That's where people go directly from Google. I'm either going to go to your bio or I'm going to go to LinkedIn. If I go to your bio, if I go to the website, I'm not going to the homepage. I'm going to Chris Fritsch. Okay. And if your bio doesn't say you do certain things, I assume you don't. Bios need to be updated on a regular basis, not once a year, especially if things have changed in your practice. If you don't say you do it, I assume you don't. Everybody needs to make sure the bios are written in less formal terms. No Mr. Jones, and headshots need to be like, take that tie off for God's sake. If your clients aren't wearing ties, take the tie off. Okay. It helps with SEO if you update your bio. I also have a bio workshop, so I can't get into this too much today. I want to make sure that you're also thinking about earned and owned media, because for small and mid-sized firms, the biggest way that I've gotten visibility and one of the keys to my success in marketing small firms has been with owned media. Let me explain. Earned media is PR. PR is great. You can get your firm and your lawyers in the media, and it doesn't have to be the New York Times, by the way. Trade association publications are great, okay? Third-party recognitions help when people Google you and when you're trying to build some gravitas, okay? Awards are great. Just don't spend too much time on those things if it's a time suck. What I like about owned media is that you create news about yourself, okay? So this is a bio series of your lawyers on social media and your website, a Q&A series with your lawyers, practice description series, get to know our intellectual property practice, get a case study of a deal you did, right? Evergreen blog posts, content marketing is owned media. A look at your diversity initiatives, a look at your pro bono work, the first 100 days of a lateral. Look at Lowenstein Sandler. They do a terrific job with this. Hashtag holidays, right? So let's say you, and other commemorative months, right? So Women's History Month, do a special series of the women at your firm, women alumni spotlights, Black History Month, spotlight the Black lawyers at your firm, the Black alumni. I could go on and on. I also do a program on this if you're interested. Okay, do you feel like you got some ideas? I hope so, because also this day in history, maybe your firm did something in history 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 100 years ago. That's a social post. Chris, did you get some ideas? I hope so.
I've got so many ideas. I've been just trying to keep up with you.
Okay. For those of you who follow my Women Who Wow series, and if any of you want to be in that, let me know. But that is an example of owned media, which helps my brand get in the news, and I'm supporting other women. That's a great example of this. Set realistic expectation with your award submissions. Who hates chambers and doing them? Me, super lawyers. I hate them. But and they always ruin my vacation. Thank you, Anna, for raising your hand. If you're not going to make it, don't do it. Don't waste your resources of your marketing team. Be realistic. Look at the other firms that are ranked. And if you don't stand a chance, don't do it. Okay, but submit to the ones where you have a shot. Okay. Also, be strategic about your sponsorships and try to get speaking slots. If you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. What's the harm in asking? It's not. I don't know that it's worth putting your big logo on a one-day conference and ads in magazines or ads in like trade journals that go for a day. What's the point? I would rather spend my money more strategically.
So I'm seeing a huge trend on that, of firms. Forever, nobody really wanted to track that. And now I'm seeing it tracked more than ever. And I couldn't figure out why, but it's a CRM thing. Do you want to be able to track events and sponsorships? And now people are like, I want to track the ROI on that. I think a lot of it has to do with changes in the tax law that you don't get to deduct all of that anymore, the sports events and things like that. And so suddenly, you've got to show a bigger payout. Are we doing these big tables and nobody from the firm goes?
Yeah.
So there should be accountability that if the person asks for the sponsorship, they have to go and they have to take a client. I like that one.
100%.
Actually using CRM to track who was the sponsorship for, how much was it, did we attend, did we get value? And the attorney who asked for it has to put some notes in about, whether they would do it again, what value, did they get any leads out of it? And then, ideally you want to be able to do a time and billing integration with the CRM and track it to potential matters. That's a little more challenging to do, but I think firms at least are finally wanting to do that. And it's super smart.
Yeah. And by the way, Chris, you know what I do? I make the lawyers, like when they ask for the money to go do a sponsorship, or a client asks them to spend money for a golf event or a charitable event, we look back and see how much business we got from that client.
Right.
So you got to talk to finance and find out. And when it comes to other sponsorships or lawyers going to conferences, I make lawyers commit to doing business development in those cities as well, or writing a takeaways piece. You want to go to a conference in New Orleans for X, topic, you have to commit that you're going to write a client alert on 5 takeaways from the ABA antitrust seminar. And then I feel like I got value from that event as well for the firm. So
it's a big frustration too. I had a client who said, one of the reasons we want CRM is I don't ever want to again have to do a $10,000 sponsorship for a $5,000 client. Right? I want to be able to see revenue. I want to be able to see sponsorships, and I want to track that in the CRM because that's the ideal place to do it.
Yeah, I agree. Guys, another thing you could do for evergreen content on social is look at your reviews. So best law firms, Chambers, also Glassdoor, their reviews, obviously the good ones. But those are also some really good reviews. You can also take your LinkedIn recommendations, and you don't have to put the name of the person who recommended you, but that could be a social media series as well, which I really like. So, Stefanie Marrone is the best content marketing and CMO, blah, 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 right? And that would be like a good, another kind of evergreen piece. I'm going to give you guys a homework assignment if you're up to it. And what I want you to do is create a piece of evergreen content this summer and tag me in it when you do it. And it would be like, so every single practice and every single person, for those of you who are legal marketers, you could come up with one too. Every single area has like something that is evergreen. Like, for example, why you should write a client alert. That's one. What to do when you get a subpoena is another one. What to do, what happens to your assets without a will. Chris, why you need a CRM is another one. Why you need to be on LinkedIn. I'd love for you each to find that gem that is timeless and write an article. It doesn't have to be long. In fact, it shouldn't be, because most people are reading these things on their phones, and make an effort to publish them. And if you don't have a place to publish it and it fits with my blog, I'll publish it on my blog as a guest post, because I publish things all the time on my blog. Okay. So who's going to commit to that? And will you, if you want to do it, send me a message here or on LinkedIn. And if you need help, I will help you. Chris, what do you think about that?
I love it.
Okay. So we already talked about webinars and CLEs, and I went into that. You do need to be on LinkedIn. Everybody needs a LinkedIn company page. I do a lot of trainings on LinkedIn, so you know that I'm not going to talk about this. And I mentioned that whether you use it once a day, once a year, it has incredibly high domain authority. So everybody here knows how I feel about LinkedIn. I built my brand on LinkedIn, guys. I started my business because I had already had a built-in pipeline from posting on LinkedIn for years before I ever was even thinking about being an entrepreneur. And that's all I'm going to say. And if you're not comfortable posting, share other people's content. If you want to build relationships with people, share their content, comment on posts. That's how you can start dipping your toes. And if you really want to do something awesome on LinkedIn, start creating LinkedIn newsletters, either as a company page or as an individual. And if you have over 2,000 followers on LinkedIn, you should probably move your account over to creator mode. And I have another program on this.
Yep.
Alumni relations.
We're going to do a whole other webinar on that.
But alumni, somebody asked, why alumni? Okay, because of all of these things. They help with recruiting, they're referral sources. They sometimes are boomerang employees and they come back. They are general, positive branding for your firm. Sometimes they leave under bad circumstances and you can fix that with a good alumni program. Every single law firm has alumni, except if you just started your firm, yesterday. Okay. It's so important. I would also tell you, invite non-lawyers and former summer associates to be part of your alumni universe, because you may have some awesome people in that world and you want to find them. Companies like Chris's company do that. And I'll tell you, years ago when I was at Proskauer, I had no idea how to find people with whom we lost touch 20 years ago, and her team helped me find them. That is not something you want to give people internally to do, because that's a lot of data work. So there's people who do that.
Yeah, people inside the firm should be doing the more strategic stuff. Outsource the stuff that's less strategic.
Outsource that stuff. All right, Chris. So we're at the corner of Marketing Avenue and Technology Street. So
that's where I live.
I know. So we kind of talked about this the last time, and I think I covered the last three, but we had some people. Oh, Chris, people were asking in the chat, if lawyers aren't using Outlook, what are they using? So I think you should mention ERM.
Yeah, so lawyers are still using Outlook. They're just not using the Outlook address book like they used to. And for those that do, they've been using it for many, many years, a lot of them, and they put stuff in and they never take it out. And so 30% of your data used to degrade. With the great sort of resignation, reshuffling, it's half your data basically going bad each year, which is why, data is so important, because you need it to do all these other things that we talked about, right? So, but technology is really the great equalizer. ERM is enterprise relationship management as opposed to CRM. And so it'll create contacts from the signature blocks of emails without the attorneys having to do anything, be trained in any way. It'll also create who knows who relationships based on recency and frequency of communication. Again, the attorneys just get to be lawyers and work with clients, and the technology does the rest. It's not perfect, but you can then get that data, put it into lists, and do e-marketing with it. So that's one thing. You want to go to the next slide?
Yes.
And CRM, yes, I'm a CRM consultant and it can do 1,000 things, but realistically, you got to know which of these three you really care about. Don't try to do everything, right? Don't try to boil the ocean. It's like today, getting all this information from the webinar. Just get 3 nuggets that you are actually going to commit to go back and implement as your homework. Next slide.
Yeah, and you guys could write a post about 3 takeaways from today's webinar. I'm sure there were 3. Should I move on, Chris?
Yeah, next slide, please.
Okay.
Thanks. So a big thing about technology is focus on the firm needs, like people, process, and problems first and products second. Don't get technology just because it sounds sexy. We had a firm where they looked at this technology, the CRM system, and the marketing team and the BD team just absolutely loved it. The managing partner stopped them and said, we're going to ask our clients what they use. Well, a lot of them use Salesforce. And he said, no, we're buying Salesforce, period. Well, I'm sorry, but in this particular instance, they came to us to try to fix the broken Salesforce and implement it, for a law firm, which can be challenging because it's not necessarily designed that way. It can be done because it can do so many things, but it's expensive and time consuming to do it. But we went through the whole laundry list of things they wanted. Everything that they wanted was in a legal specific and focused provider, not out of the box in Salesforce. And they got the initial quote from the professional services team to implement. It was $380,000 for the professional services because they were trying to make it do something it wasn't initially designed to do. Not that it can. So there might be better ways. So you got to know what you want to do first and then go looking for the software. Very, very, very important. And in looking for the right software, once you've assessed your needs, we put them into what we call a vendor demo roadmap to give to the providers to really give them sort of a framework. Show us these things that we care about, but not so much these that we're not interested in. It helps us compare apples to apples, and it, leave the dogs and ponies in the barn. Thank you. And also check references. I've got a great reference checking sheet. I'm happy to share that for anybody who wants it, but you really do need to ask the tough questions. Use your legal marketing network to find other people who have implemented those systems and talk to them. Definitely do get some referral sources from the providers, but also reach out to your network and make sure that you get a broad referral question. Next slide. And e-marketing, I think we've talked so much about this, but e-marketing, it's not going away. Email is still one of the best ways to reach folks. Stefanie, I think you wanted to say something, sorry.
Yeah, so you don't own your you don't own your LinkedIn contacts, but you do own your email list. Plus, there is no way to make sure every single person on LinkedIn sees all of your posts with the exception of a LinkedIn newsletter. And even that, there's ways that people can miss things. So the tried and true works, guys. Email marketing is so powerful, but only if you're doing it to provide very strategic client-centric content. So it's really important to use this. And this is why also, you want to have a process in place to make sure that you're producing content that, client alerts and updates in the law and a newsletter. There's no way, if you're looking for a reason to get back in touch with someone and keep them warm and have a good touch point, this value-added content is the way to do it. So you want to say top of mind? This is the most direct way.
Yep.
All right, so.
Yeah, there's a lot here. I'd be surprised if somebody didn't get 30 nuggets, but that's not all. We're actually going to give you some more information too, as well.
Yeah, we sort of went through all of these things. And, listen, I didn't mention with social media, there's obviously other channels. If your clients are on Instagram, go on Instagram. I can do other sessions on social. I didn't get a chance to talk about social today. Obviously, I can somewhere else. But I will tell you, we talk about these things a lot. There's some other ideas here, referrals. You could join a lawyer association.
And we're going to follow up to the webinar with some goodies that we're going to give you, but also with the slides and the recording. This is one of my favorite little tips and tricks. You all may all know this now. These QR codes from LinkedIn are awesome, but your lawyers might not. So if you point the camera at either or both of these, you can connect with us immediately on LinkedIn and we'll link back up with you and you can reach out to us anytime. But I like to say, Stefanie actually taught me this trick. Show your lawyers the QR codes and have them put them in their webinars and their presentations. They're absolutely cool. And the other thing is, if you are interested in tips on success with marketing technology, my blog is at crmsuccess.net. So feel free to go sign up for that as well. And we try to regularly give you tips. There's also a ton of information on our Clients First Consulting resources page, white papers, articles, best practices, presentations. There's hundreds and hundreds of things there that you can get access to. Happy to share it anytime. And feel free at any time to call either Stefanie or me. We will always take a call. A lot of you are looking for technology. That's my in and out. I stay up to date on all the technology all the time, and I'm happy to share info, ideas, and best practices.
Yeah. And so these are the things, we have other things obviously on our blog. Thanks, Chris, for putting in my right website. So, so that appreciate that. So these are things we'll give you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and just see if there are any other questions. We actually finished perfectly on time, and that's great. So let's just look here. Somebody asked a question about how to get lawyers to update their representative matters. Oh God, if I had the answer to that, I would be rich. So
well, a lot of firms are focused on experience technology now to help do that and integrate it with the time and billing system. And again, we could have a whole other webinar about that, but I'm happy to share information anytime on that.
Yeah. Somebody asked me if I have a document on how to summarizing all the ways to reuse a webinar. Yes, I do. And I can put that in the follow-up materials. Chris, somebody's asking about alternatives to Constant Contact, and then if you've ever heard of Scorpion. Yep. So I think there's a lot of people complaining about Constant Contact in the chat.
Yeah. And it's a budget tool. It's a great tool, but again, it wasn't designed for legal. I like that they've got good customer service and they'll take phone calls. Like MailChimp doesn't really do that very well. But there are about to be new pieces of software out there that are going to do a lot of that at a lower budget point for small and mid-sized firms that are going to have ERM and industry information all together. And you'll be hearing more about that. Let me know if you'd like to know more about that. I'm happy to share that offline.
Yeah. And if you guys have specific questions on systems, reach out to Chris, reach out to me. Somebody asked about, email, holiday cards versus snail mail. So I understand why people want to send the hard copy cards, but I really think that right now it's difficult to reach people with a hard copy card because a lot of people are still working from home. And I also think they get lost. And I think it's a waste of money because they're expensive, but I know that some lawyers swear by them. So I think it just depends on the person, but I think e-cards can work really well. I also don't think you need to spend a ton of money on a card, and nor do I think you need to do like crazy animation and all that stuff. I think it just needs to be crisp and clever. And I love the idea of having your employees be involved in the card. So I've done a recipe card for years, like ask employees to submit their recipes and like do something like eat, drink, and be merry from our table to yours, or ask your employees to submit pictures of them from when they were kids, or asking employee kids to draw a picture of their Christmas or holiday memories or whatever it is. But we'll do another session. So session 3, August 10th, the sign up was in the beginning. Let me put it here, and let me just put it right here again. And then so August 10th, and if you guys want to join, that'd be great, but we'll do a sign up again. And I'm so glad you guys enjoyed. Somebody said they got 300 takeaways, not 3. Woo! So guys, commit to if you want any of the resources, do message me, message Chris, and commit to writing something this summer. I think it would be really good to do that. And whenever you hear lawyers or anybody say, no one came to our webinar, no one's liking my social media posts, you guys have seen, I posted something recently about the fact that a lot of people don't like posts or comment on them. There's a whole silent audience. Remember that. Tell lawyers that, and remember that for yourself, that a lot of people say things to me, I love your content, but they've never actually liked my post once. So use that and put that in your back pocket.
So I got a really good tip from another consultant outside who said, ask a question in your posts, because a lot of times that will stimulate people to actually have a dialogue in the comments. That's
a call to action. And so you should put that at the end. I do that. And if you want to make sure you don't miss our posts on LinkedIn, you can click that little bell on our profiles, and then you'll get a notification on our posts. So I'm going to be doing a LinkedIn webinar, and I'll send everyone the info for that as well in the follow-up email. So thanks everyone for joining. I hope you guys have a great day, and we're so happy that you came today.
You really are. Thank you so
Thanks,
much for taking time
everybody.
out and sharing your time with us.
Take care.